The world is drowning in pollution, and there's real fear that natural resources are running out. At the University of Chicago, one team believes they've found a way out: clean hydrogen energy pulled straight out of ordinary water. Paul Shannon, the government official overseeing the program, puts an ambitious young scientist in charge of making it real: Dr. Alistair Barkley. Barkley builds a small, tight-knit team: physicist Lily Sinclair, project manager Lu Chen, and a sharp young machinist named Eddie Kasalivich, spelled out phonetically as Kasalivich, who handles the mechanical side of things. For months, the team gives everything to the project: sleep, relationships, entire days locked in the lab. Every failed experiment becomes a lesson instead of a defeat. One morning, the team manages to hold a stable fusion reaction for 4.6 milliseconds. They scramble to lock in the settings for a live demo and call Paul in to watch, but the moment they fire the laser, the reaction collapses again. Barkley reminds his deflated team what's at stake and pushes them to adjust the data and try once more. That night, tinkering at home, Eddie stumbles onto something remarkable: a sound frequency that keeps the reaction perfectly stable. Once he's sure, he calls the team. It's completely stable. It's the next day, using Eddie's discovery, the experiment holds, and the energy coming out is far greater than what went in. It's the breakthrough of a lifetime, and the celebration is immediate: drinks, music, a toast to the impossible. In the middle of it, Paul pulls Barkley aside and tells him flatly he never agreed to keep this quiet, and that he knows exactly what's on his mind. The rest of the team interrupts them, eager for a photo to mark the night. Eventually, the party winds down. Barkley and Lu Chen stay behind to finish some work, while Eddie notices Lily's car won't start and offers to see her home. Since she's unsteady on her feet, he walks her home and rides the bus with her instead. While they're gone, an unmarked van pulls up outside the lab. Barkley tells Chen he wants to publish all their results online that night, but Chen hears something outside and steps out to check, right as strangers slip into the building. Eddie sees Lily safely to the third floor of Barkley's house, where she lives, then heads back for his motorcycle. He spots the same van pulling away and hears the lab's alarms blaring. Inside, no one answers his calls until he finds Barkley dead on the floor with a plastic bag over his head. Lu Chen is nowhere to be found. The reactor's containment starts failing. Eddie can't shut it down in time and speeds off just as a hidden detonator triggers a massive explosion, leveling the lab and 8 surrounding blocks. The next day, after hours of questioning, Eddie and Lily realize the horrifying truth. They're being framed, with planted evidence turning up in both of their homes. Reporters swarm the wreckage, federal investigators arrive demanding search warrants for everyone who worked at the lab, and in the interrogation room, someone floats the theory that whoever did this wants the technology for themselves. Investigators zero in on Eddie as the last one seen at the party and press him about his relationship with Lily. He tells them calmly they're just colleagues. Later, the three of them try to visit Barkley's house, only to find it swarmed by journalists. They grab a handful of sensitive research documents in the chaos. Lily, terrified people will assume Eddie is guilty, gets an unexpected fax and is stunned to find it's from Lu Chen, asking for the rest of the data, proof that someone is using him to build a case against her. Meanwhile, investigators dig into Eddie's file and learn he once left university over disciplinary trouble. They try to reach his apartment to hide him, but spot agents surrounding it and turn back. Agents tear the apartment apart anyway, finding a transmitter sending data out by satellite and a hidden $250,000 in cash, deepening the case against him. With no other options, Lily and Eddie hide in Paul's parking garage. Paul confronts Eddie about the money, but Eddie denies any part in Barkley's death and refuses to turn himself in. Lily calms him down, tells him to stay silent, and promises she'll make contact once things settle. Over dinner, Eddie reassures Lily that Maggie can be trusted. Then, a news alert flashes both their names as wanted fugitives. Lily forces herself to stay calm and heads for the train station, only to look back in horror and see police chasing Eddie down the street, powerless to help. Eddie runs for his life through the city, with police, agents, a helicopter, and boats all closing in. He reaches a drawbridge mid-rise, and in a split-second gutsy move, slips past the officers guarding it and vanishes. Against the odds, he makes it to the station and reunites with a relieved Lily, and, for a moment, they believe they're finally safe. After a long, grueling journey, they reach an observatory in Wisconsin belonging to Maggie McDermott, Eddie's old friend, who takes them in despite treating them like the fugitives the news already calls them. 2 days later, Paul stands before a Senate committee defending the disaster as an unavoidable cost of staying ahead of the rest of the world, and the committee eats it up. At the observatory, Lily becomes convinced this whole thing was engineered to look like an accident, while Maggie only grows more confused, trying to keep up. In Washington, agents shadow Paul, but when he enters a government research facility in Virginia, security blocks them at the door. Inside, Paul meets the frustrated head of the facility, whose own version of the reactor still isn't working. During that meeting, Paul gets a call, Eddie, from a payphone in Williams Bay, warning him to stay away. Sirens close in fast. Eddie races back for Lily, but a police officer traps them on the observatory roof. Just as they're about to surrender, a helicopter swoops in and guns the officer down in cold blood, pinning yet another death on them before vanishing without a trace. Police flood the area, Eddie grabs the dead officer's weapon, and the two of them run, eventually stealing a boat to escape across the water. Exhausted, they take shelter in an abandoned house. Eddie warms Lily up and looks after her, then heads to the garage to fix up a car he finds there. In Washington, agents corner Paul about money tied to accounts in the Cayman Islands, but he deflects with vague talk of national security. Growing anxious that Eddie is now wanted for killing a police officer, Paul rushes to Lyman Earl Collier, head of Sea Systems Research, and insists Eddie needs to be protected, not eliminated, since he's the only one who knows the correct frequency. That night, intruders creep into the house, but Eddie hears them coming, gets Lily to safety, and together they overpower the men. Going through their belongings, they find a lead tying everything to Sea Systems Research. In the city, Lily makes contact through a florist's shop with a coded message, while agents intercept and question the delivery driver for anything they can get. Eddie signals Paul directly, and they agree to meet at the Museum of Science and Industry. Paul pulls him aside and coldly admits this was never going to end the way Eddie imagined, that there's still work to finish, then walks away, knowing Lyman's men are already closing in. In the chaos of the crowded museum, Eddie and Lily get separated. Two of Lyman's men, Yusuf Reed and Clancy Butler, the same pair who killed Barkley, grab Lily and sedate her before Eddie can reach her. All he can do is watch the car speed off and memorize the plate. Lily wakes up inside Sea Systems Research, stunned to find Lu Chen alive, and held prisoner alongside her. The two are forced to recreate the experiment under constant threat. At the FBI, Agent Leon Ford reviews old footage of Eddie and Barkley, convinced the kid isn't capable of the crime he's accused of. Using the license plate, Eddie tracks the vehicle to the facility and slips in disguised as a worker, arriving just as Lily and Chen are pushed to repeat the breakthrough in front of a room of tense observers. The reaction starts, then spirals out of control again, exactly as Eddie warned it would. That night, once the building empties, Eddie sneaks back and quietly fixes the reactor himself. The next morning, Paul is stunned it's running perfectly, crediting Lukasz Skrebneski, spelled out phonetically as Lukasz Skrebneski, one of the on-site scientists secretly on Sea Systems' payroll. Suspicious, Paul secures a copy of the data and quietly hands it to his secretary, Anita, to hold onto. Back in his office, Paul finds Eddie calmly sending a secret message to the FBI. Lyman and his men storm in to seize control, but Eddie stops them cold, tells them the reactor works, and there's no room to negotiate. He transmits the data straight to the Bureau and shuts the system down remotely. Furious, Lyman demands to know what he's done. Eddie tells him he's decided to turn himself in. Then the reactor spirals into a runaway state nobody can stop. Losing all control, Lyman shoots Lu Chen dead and grabs Lily as a hostage. Eddie tries to reason with him, but Lucas intervenes and shuts the system down against Eddie's warnings, making everything work. Alarms scream, people flee, and Eddie and Lily find their way back to each other amid the chaos. Lyman drags his hostage toward the exit, leaving Eddie and Lily locked inside to face the explosion, while Paul turns to them with something close to an apology before fleeing with the rest of the staff. Outside, FBI agents arrive by helicopter with no idea how bad it's gotten inside. Refusing to give up, Eddie finds a way down to the lowest level. Paul and Lyman board an elevator to make their own escape. And when Lyman asks about the data disk, Paul, no longer able to stomach his bloody methods, shoots him dead and leaves the body behind. Stepping off the elevator, Paul disables the lockdown and the doors swing open, giving Eddie and Lily their chance. They run straight into Lyman's remaining men who have no idea their boss is already dead, but Eddie fights through them and pulls Lily along. With help from employees fleeing the collapsing facility, they make it outside just as the place tears itself apart, and the crowd greets them with relief and cheers. FBI agents arrive, visibly relieved that the two people they'd been hunting turn out to be innocent, and take them to Washington to sort everything out. Paul Shannon, meanwhile, strolls away from the wreckage completely untouched, climbing into a car with Anita as if none of it touches him. He calmly dictates a message for the director of the CIA, reporting that C-Systems is, in his words, no longer a viable entity. The final confirmation that Paul was never just a university administrator. He was CIA the whole time, and Lyman's entire operation had been working for him from the start. In a brief scene after the credits, the entire C-Systems complex folds in on itself and disappears from the landscape, as if the place had never existed at all. And that's the complete story of Chain Reaction, a movie about a discovery so powerful, the people who found it became more dangerous than the invention itself. If you enjoyed this recap, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never